Are you looking to switch careers into financial planning? Hey, it's Gabby with That Makes Sense, and today I'll be talking about why and how I switched careers from teaching, which I thought would be a stable profession, into financial coaching and financial planning. I get a ton of questions on this every month, and I'll be sharing a focused list of things that I think worked really well for me that could work for you in changing careers. And at the end of the video, I'll also share how I think about the different phases of making a career change. All right, let's dive into my teaching era. One of the biggest reasons I became a teacher is because I absolutely love helping people. When it came time to pick a career, I couldn't see a profession that more clearly helped people than teaching. I have always been really interested in personal finance since high school. Economics was my favorite class, but I thought to be a financial advisor, you had to be basically an insurance salesperson and you had to pester your friends and family to sell them life insurance policies, and I knew for sure I didn't want to do that. My parents are both teachers. My mom has been a teacher my whole life, and my dad retired from his first career and became a teacher. And so I've been voluntold in my mom's classroom since I was really young, and I could see really clearly how teaching helped people. So I got my teaching credential and my master's after graduating from college, and I always wanted to teach kindergarten because I thought they were really cute. Before I went to my teaching credential program, I took a year off from school and I was a substitute teacher, and the number one grade where the teachers are sick and need subs are kindergarten, or is kindergarten, but I didn't end up teaching kindergarten. The first job that I got offered was a middle school job, and so my first year I taught English and history, and then my second year I thought if I switched into math, it would be a more stable, like guaranteed position long term, and so I became a 6th and 7th grade math teacher because one of the math teachers retired at my school. But unfortunately, my school had declining enrollment, and so they couldn't guarantee me a full-time job at my school, and I was super burnt out from basically 2 first years of teaching, like 1 year teaching one subject and then having to learn a whole new subject the second year. And I could have had a full-time job at a different school if I was willing to move, but I was so tired, I was so burnt out, I couldn't even think about starting a new subject, a new grade, let alone going to a new school, having to meet all new coworkers and learn how to use the copy machine at a different school. So I thought that would be a good time to explore the financial planning world. And how I first heard about it is because I was listening to a podcast called Teach and Retire Rich, which helps teachers figure out how to save and invest. And that's when I heard about the certified financial planner world, where people are not just selling things to earn a commission and try to make as much money as possible. They're actually getting paid directly from their clients for giving holistic fiduciary financial advice. And if you don't know what fiduciary is, Google it. It just means doing things in your best interest. I think of this as the start of my financial planning era. Since teaching was not as stable a profession as I thought it would be, I started researching what I needed to do to make the switch to become a financial advisor, specifically a certified financial planner. I started listening to podcasts, Googling, going on YouTube, trying to find financial planners and find entry-level financial planning jobs that I could apply to, even though I didn't have any experience relevant to personal finance. One day, I happened to be getting my laptop repaired, and I was sitting at the Genius Bar waiting for them to do something with my laptop, and I started talking to, or actually this lady next to me started talking to me, and I found out she was a financial advisor, and I was like, oh, I'm really interested in switching careers to that. I would love to, help you out and learn from you if you are willing to hire me part-time or full-time. And she was, in hindsight, desperate to hire someone. If I remember correctly, she wanted me to start while I was still teaching. So it was my last 2 weeks of school. I'm trying to clean out my classroom, turn in my grades for my students, and she wanted me to come after school to work on stuff. That's how desperate she was for help. But she rented an office in a giant, office building. I walked into her office. Everything looked really nice, beautiful wood finish on the desks and the furniture, and she had all these awards that say 5-star advisor. So my first impression was oh, this is really cool, this is a professional. But as I kept working for her, one, all of those 5-star financial advisor awards she had, you can just pay someone to be featured in a magazine where they call you a 5-star financial advisor. So it's just a sales thing. And then 2, once you walked around to the other side of her desk, the side that she was sitting on, out of view from her clients and out of view from me. What she had done is like put everything underneath her desk, jam-packed everything in there. There's like 2 blankets under her desk. There was a handle of vodka. I found her kids like social security cards, old driver's licenses, like old paperwork that she needed to file and or submit. And so what I helped her do is like organize everything in her office. Also, her paperwork was a mess. There's like not a great filing system. And so I think this is a really good metaphor for the kind of financial advisor she was. She seemed like someone who could like talk the talk and walk the walk, but in reality, what I realized after a few weeks is she was selling high commission, high fee investments to clients that didn't really make sense for them often. And her goal or her incentive was just to make as much money as possible. And I think she was making like, I don't know, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 a year just from like selling these things to people. But she wasn't giving like real financial advice. She was really just a salesperson. And that was really disappointing for me to find out. So I knew I had to get out of there. This wasn't what I was looking for. Yes, it's great to make a lot of money, but that's not why I wanted to get into this profession. I was a teacher and my parents are teachers. I love teachers. And I Googled financial planners for teachers and I found someone. She's no longer in the business, but I reached out to her and I asked her for advice. Like, what advice would you give me as a teacher who wants to switch into financial planning? She gave me 2 gold nuggets. One, she told me to sign up for my CFP classes to become a certified financial planner. There's 4 main components: the education component, there's an exam that you have to take, ethics, and then experience. And so the first thing she was telling me to do is start working on my education. So even though I had a college degree, I had my teaching credential, I had my master's in education, I had to sign up to take more classes. It costs a lot of money for me. I did some research to find the most affordable program I could, but it's okay because they're personal finance related, so I was kind of excited. 2, she told me to go to this conference called the FPA Far West Roundup, or FPA stands for Financial Planning Association. The Far West Roundup is just the name of the conference for some reason. I think it's a cute name. The conference was a pretty expensive investment for me, but I knew that I really wanted to figure out what financial planning even was, which I can go into in another video because it will probably take some time to explain the differences between financial coaching, financial planning, and other things. But at the conference, I was really honest with everyone. I was trying to figure out what financial planning was, and I was trying to decide whether I really wanted to switch careers to become a financial planner. I think this is also a really good way to hear people's stories. Like if you don't know what to talk to people about, just ask them how they got into the profession. And I think this is valuable to help you get a sense of how you might be able to find your path into an industry as well. Now, while I think going to this conference was a really good experience for me to break into the profession, I'm not saying that you need to go to this exact conference. I just think that going to events is a really good way to talk to a lot of people, show that you're serious about the profession, and just like start getting a feel for what opportunities are out there. These nuggets were so valuable because I feel like these are the top 2 things to do when you're switching careers. I think talking to a lot of people, you'll find bad advice, but you'll have to practice discernment. So I got bad advice from the first person. The second person I talked to, great advice. This helped me actually like get a real financial planning job where I'd learn how to help people. So I took her advice almost immediately. And those were 2 of like the best things I did to break into the profession or switch careers. Throughout this event, I was really lucky to meet 5+ advisors or financial planners who couldn't offer me a full-time job, but they offered to let me work for them 5 to 10 hours each. And again, I'm not saying that this will work for everyone. This is just me sharing my experience, but I was able to gain a lot of experience by juggling all of these schedules and seeing how different financial planning firms did their processes and operations and met with clients and things like that. All of them did it very differently, but there's a lot of similarities as well. What I found most valuable about this process, aside from gaining experience in a lot of different ways of doing things, is also the ability to sit in client meetings and see how the advisors would talk with their clients and what they'd be presenting on. So I got to take notes during all of these client meetings, and I was able to see how they did their follow-up work, like sending emails to clients, like going behind the scenes and making recommendations about their financial planning, keeping track of all the things that they're recommending, and doing research about different topics as well. It was a lot to juggle these like 4 to 5 different schedules at a time. I also had to figure out how to get paid as a contractor because nobody was hiring me as a W-2 employee, figuring out how to pay taxes as a contractor, which I for a while I thought this was a scam. Also, at the same time, I started taking my classes, like I mentioned before. There was a lot going on, and I would not really want to go through that experience again, but I feel like I got a lot of good experience about what real financial planning was like. So not just selling people insurance or investments or anything, but actually giving holistic advice, answering questions like when can I retire, how much money should I save for my kids' college education, things like that. Eventually, after working for all of these different advisors for about 6 months, I was finally offered a full-time position with one of the firms, and this was so much easier to balance my schedule by having one job to keep track of instead of like 4 or 5 different mini jobs to keep track of. And I think it was an excellent job to have to learn about the industry. So I did all the things that I was supposed to do to be a successful career changer into the field, finished all my classes, I gained the experience I needed, and I finally successfully passed my certified financial planner exam after 2 attempts, but I still wasn't happy. Working at my old companies was not only valuable for the financial planning experience and knowledge that I gained, but I also really learned to figure out what I liked about different bosses, what a good boss and a bad boss was like, what I liked about different clients, and the experience of having really nice, friendly clients and having clients that really stress you out and that you're always constantly worried about or thinking about even outside of work. Without gaining the experience that I did, I feel like I wouldn't really have known what my dream job scenario would be like. They helped me figure out what I was looking for. And so then when I finally got this opportunity to work where I currently work and to start my own financial coaching business, I was very clear on like what I was looking for and what was important to me. Over time, one of the biggest things that I learned is that I didn't want to exclusively work with very wealthy people or people that only worked in tech and were making huge salaries. Like I said earlier, my parents are both teachers. I was a teacher. I really feel passionate about working with teachers and other people who aren't considered traditionally wealthy or rich, financially rich, but who I think still deserve quality financial advice. So just like I did to break into the profession, I continued to talk to a lot of people and share how I was feeling and see if anyone else felt similarly, like if they knew anyone who was working with the types of clients that I wanted to work with. I attended more events to see what else was out there, and I was serious about it. Like I told people, like I really do want to make this kind of career pivot. I wanted to find more like average people, like teachers, like I said, or government employees. I heard my current boss giving a podcast interview, and I knew that that was exactly the kind of person that I would love working with, because she was a teacher at the time and she was starting and running her own financial planning business while teaching part-time. And I felt like we had a lot of similar values from listening to her interview. While I was working at my past companies, I reached out to her, sharing my passion for helping teachers and asking whether she would consider hiring me as an intern or just like part-time, just so I could get more experience serving the type of clients that she served. And I just did a cold email. I said, hey, I love listening to your podcast. Here's all the reasons why and why I think I would be a good fit for working for you. I think sometimes that will go nowhere, into a black hole that nobody looks at. But this was a small business with just one person, and she responded to me. But unfortunately, she wasn't able to hire me, in part because she had just started her business and needed to grow it more. But she was really kind enough to ask me to reach out to her again later. So I set a calendar reminder and I followed up with her like a year or maybe 6 months later. And I just kept reaching out, frankly, every time that I wanted to quit my job to see if she would be willing to take me on. And I even offered to be an unpaid intern, which she refused. Eventually, me continuing to check in with her and reach out over time, and she was finally able to hire me and pay me a salary. So I started working for her about 4.5 years after initially reaching out to her via email. All of the same principles that applied for me changing careers also applied for me in this like fourth stage, which is me trusting my gut and knowing like, okay, now I have the experience and I have the knowledge. Now I'm looking for a fit with my lifestyle and the values that I have. So the same things that worked before helped me find my current role. Now, around the same time that I was talking to my now current boss, who I love working for, I decided to finally start my own financial coaching business. And I had been wanting to do financial coaching for a long time, but most of the companies that you work at do not let you have what they call an outside business activity like this, where you're doing something relating to finance. They're worried about it being a compliance issue. It could also be a conflict of interest. I had found a job that finally approved me having a financial coaching business. And I was also very upfront with my current boss about, are you okay hiring me if I have this business on the side that I'm starting right now? And the reason I've always wanted to do financial coaching is because it's very different from financial planning. I love doing both financial coaching and financial planning, which is why I work in this other business that I love as a financial planner with my awesome boss, and I still have my own separate business to do financial coaching. Really, my point here is that once I gained enough experience, figured out my way around the industry, and saved up enough money, I was able to leave jobs where I was fine, but I wasn't super happy, and find a job that was really in alignment with my values and the life that I wanted to live. So I think of a career change pathway as having 3 phases, maybe 4. I'm still in the middle of it, but 3 that I can identify from my experience. So the first phase, figuring out what financial planning even is, or what the field is, and gaining any relevant experience. So like I said, I had a bad first experience with a financial advisor. I didn't really learn anything useful to the field other than like what I didn't want to do. And then phase 2 is to find jobs that offer better pay or benefits, or at least offer you the chance to learn something really valuable to you. And then phase 3, find a job that aligns better with my values, or at least with the lifestyle that I want to live. I also still really love teaching, and I miss teaching. I think working with kids is really fun. So maybe phase 4 for me will be finding a part-time teaching job. I can teach personal finance in the high school level or something. Or maybe that's just a continuation of phase 3. Thanks for listening until the end. Lastly, again, these are things I feel worked really well for me and I think could work well for you too. Talk to a lot of folks for advice. People are surprisingly nice, so really don't be afraid. I also think in the absence of wanting to talk to people, listening to podcasts is a really good way to have a substitute for talking to people. If you don't want to talk to people, you can hear about people's stories, their pathways, like their advice, all of the things that will help you navigate your career. Listening to podcasts is how I discovered the whole new world of real financial advice. And if you aren't sure what kind of career to make a switch to, then start consuming some content to just see what's out there. You know, in the absence of knowing what's out there, you got to start somewhere. Gaining experience is one way, but listening to podcasts and learning from other people's experiences is another way. Get serious and show commitment to the career change. That could be taking classes or getting new certifications, joining orgs, watching YouTube videos or listening to podcasts, go to industry events, and again, like I said, trust your gut. Know that even if you're not exactly happy with your job, but you are happy with the career, there is probably that dream job out there for you somewhere. I hope these tips were helpful if you're trying to financially prepare for leaving a job or changing careers. I highly recommend you put together a financial balance sheet, which I have over in my other video titled, How Do I Know If I'm Doing Well Financially? Thanks. Bye.